So we're going to be talking about circumference. Can anybody tell me what the circumference of a circle is? Not the equation, but just...
The circle itself.
That's how many degrees are inside of a circle, but not the circumference.
It's a circle.
She already said it. She already said, no. It's the distance around the circle. It's literally the exact definition. The perimeter of a circle, same thing. That's good. So sorry. So it's the distance around the circle. I would write that down. So, what I want you to visualize when we're talking about the circumference, you can kind of see that. I know it's not very dark. What is like the most, what food circle do we see all the time?
Pie.
You see pie a lot?
Pizza.
I see pizza a lot. Probably once a week, maybe twice. Sometimes 3 times.
What about vegetables?
Vegetables are not... No. Focus. Chicken is not a circle.
Poultry.
You said pizza.
Pizza is a circle. Not a pizza slice. No, I didn't say a pizza slice. A whole pizza is a circle.
She just said pizza. I'm thinking one pizza.
What I want you to know and want you to visualize. The crust of a pizza. Not the crust of a cookie. Not the crust of an Oreo. Not the crust of whatever you just said. The crust of a pizza is the circumference. So envision that. It is the line all the way around a circle. So you want to think of the crust. The nice stuffed crust. So what happened was the circumference has a relationship with pi. Pi represents a number. They didn't pick a number out at the top of their head and said, let me just make life confusing and make it a letter, a number. No. What happened was Archimedes, very smart man.
That's my dog.
That's your dog, good. He had started with an inscribed polygon. Inscribed polygons are inside of a circle. Does this square look like a circle? Just be honest.
No.
No, not really. This square, whatever, you're weird. Then he added more sides. Okay, does that look more like a circle? It's getting there.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. Okay, the more sides you add, the more it looks like a circle, am I right? He found that a 96-sided polygon was as close to a circle as you get, and then after that, 97 sides is just a circle. It looks like a circle. So what he did was he found the relationship between the circumference of a circle and the diameter. If you took the circumference and divided it by the diameter, which is written right here, you would get 3.14 of any circular object. So we usually celebrate Pi Day. What day would Pi Day normally be on?
March 14th.
March 14th. What's the problem with that this year? That's spring break. So you can celebrate at home. We're going to try to celebrate towards the end of the month. This is the only time that math gets to do like a party. They say call it a fellowship. We're going to call it a party, call it is what it is. We don't get field trips. We're going to have Pi Day. Okay? Anyways, what you're going to do is you're going to prove pi. You're going to find the circumference, which is all the way around your circle, and you'll divide it then by the diameter. And you'll see it's going to be 3.14. There are 2 formulas in this section to find the circumference in lengths. The first one is pi times d. So circumference equals pi times d. You'll want to write that down. Circumference equals pi times d. Anywhere you want, buddy. You're in 10th grade. Circumference equals pi times d. I'm just saying, find a place in your notes. In college, your professor's not going to say, all right, Noah, go ahead and put
But
it
here's
in.
the thing. They wouldn't give us these notes.
Oh, some of them do. Math? Some of them do. I have an entire degree in math, so
You have it.
some of them do.
Okay, but here, tell me what I'm supposed to write down.
It's underlined.
Circumference
Equals pi times d. Or circumference equals 2 pi r. So it'll come up here. Pi times d or 2 pi r, the underlined. Because what does the letter d represent? Diameter. What does the r represent? The radius. What relationship do the diameter and radius have?
The radius is half of the radius.
The radius is half the diameter, which makes the diameter double the radius. So 2 times the radius is the diameter. That's where these formulas come in. Okay? So we're going to use both of them. You're going to be using a 4-function calculator, so you won't have a pi button. What is pi equivalent to? We'll use in this class 3.14. That is rounded. So because it's rounded to the hundredth, we're rounding all answers to the hundredth at the very end. So 2 decimal places. What will 2 times pi be equal to?
6.2.
6.28. You do need to know that. It would save you a couple steps in problems. So if you know 2 pi is 6.28 and pi is 3.14. When I was in high school, we didn't use calculators at all. So we just had to know it. All right, so we're going to do these 4 problems. If it says leave in exact value, sorry, the last thing you write down. In exact value means leave it in pi form. I would also write that down. When it says leave in exact value, that means leave in pi form. I will explain it. So if the problem says leave in exact value, leave it in pi form. Because we use 3.14, is that the exact number of pi? No. Because it's 3.14159258, blah, blah, blah. So when it says leave exact, you won't multiply times 3.14. You would leave it as 2 pi, 6 pi, 28 pi. All right, I'll explain the first one. Find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 3. So which formula are we going to use? Circumference equals pi times d. So pi times the diameter, because we're given the diameter. So circumference equals, where am I going to plug in the 5? Yeah. So pi times 5. If it said leave an exact value, the answer to this would be 5 pi. That's what it means by exact. It doesn't say that. We're going to round to the nearest hundredths. So what are you going to type into your calculator? 3.14 times 5. Someone go ahead and let me know what that is. 15.7 inches. Number 2, find the diameter of a circle with a circumference of 17 feet. So which circumference formula are we going to use? Circumference
C
equals?
pi times d.
Yep. So where am I going to plug in 17? For C, because it's my circumference. So 17 equals pi times d. So I kind of just said it. What is the pi and the diameter doing together? They're multiplying. So what's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So in order to get the diameter by itself, you're going to have to divide by pi. So type in your calculator, 17 divided by 3.14. Round to the nearest hundredth. 5.41 feet. Is it about math?
Yes.
Okay.
What's on Thursday? Quiz,
No, we're not talking about the schedule right now. I'm asking, are you asking a question about this? Your answer should be no. Number 3, find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 11 inches. So which formula do we want to use? Circumference equals 2 pi r. 2 pi r. So where am I going to plug in 11? For r. So 2 pi times 11. So when you go to type this in your calculator, you could type in 2 times 3.4 times 11. Or you could save yourself some time, because what is 2 pi equivalent to? 6.28. So 6.28 times 11. Rounded to the nearest hundredths. Okay, it equals. What is wrong with you? 69.08 inches. All right, and the last, find the radius of a circle with a circumference of 4 millimeters. So which circumference formula are we going to use?
C equals pi times distance. Or
2 pi r, because we're looking for the radius. All right, so where am I going to plug in 4? For where? For the circumference. All right, so 2 pi is multiplying times r. What is the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So we're going to divide by 2 pi. So what would you type into your calculator?
4 divided by 6.28.
4 divided by 6.28. 6.28. Just going to move this up. So what is 4 divided by 6.28? It's a very small number. 0.64. And this would be millimeters. All right, so this next portion, we're going to be talking about arc length. Arc length, so think about if you were to eat a pizza. Okay, even if you did eat an entire pizza, do you pick up the entire circle and eat it all as like a weirdo?
I've seen that.
Okay, you would eat it slice by slice. So if I called up Mama Spikes, she would say you eat an entire pizza, just
Yep, I do.
No
interesting.
one
You eat it slice by slice. So here's what you need to understand. If you have a pizza, so we'll say this circle is our pizza. It's a personal pan, right? Personal pan. Don't Personal pizza. All right. Let's say this was. It's like a fourth of the pizza. That's fine.
Fat piece.
You're a fat piece. What?
That was good. I hope you got that on recording.
Sorry.
You're.
I did. Never mind. All right, here we go. So, arc length is your crust, your piece of the crust. Not the entire crust. The circumference is all of the crust. Arc length is your piece of the crust. Do we understand each other? So what's going to happen is you're going to have to be able to find it, all right? And arc length is a portion of the circumference of the circle. You can use the measure of the arc in degrees to find its length in linear units. So you're going to write down this.
Is that a formula?
It is a formula. You're going to plug into it. Go ahead and write it down. It goes in that box. So it's arc length over the circumference equals the measure of AB over 360. I will explain why it is the way it is in a second.
So we don't have to put the AB in the formula.
Technically, no. It just has to be the same arc length and measure. Like, it has to be from the same arc. That's why I put that. Good question. So, this first piece, where it's arc length over circumference. So remember in a fraction, what always goes on the bottom of the fraction?
The larger number.
The denominator.
That is the denominator, and it is the larger number. Where do we get the larger number from?
Multiplying.
Not at all. If I wanted to know the fraction of
Oh, because
girls
it's over the whole.
over the whole, which we could call the total. So look, the circumference is all of the what?
The
it's-
whole.
It's all of the crust, all of the outside, all the way around.
So wouldn't they be the same?
The arc length is your piece, is this small piece. So no, it's not the same thing. So the red is the arc length. All of it, the red and the black, is going to be the circumference.
But the circumference wouldn't be the same as 360.
No, because it's in length. So you're telling me this is 360 inches? Probably not. 360 feet? Probably not. So I'm about to bring it up. This one is in length. This first is in length. Length and degrees are not the same thing.
I'm going to have to write that down.
This second portion is in degrees. Degrees. So, here's what I mean by that. If I wanted to find the length in red, I would not use a protractor. I would probably use a string to find out the length and then lay it next to a ruler. It's technically the way to find it. So the length is not going to be the same thing because if I found the measure, technically the measure of this arc is 90 degrees. Does this look like it's 90 feet or 90 inches or 90 anything?
I don't see a right angle.
It is a right angle.
Dang.
I literally am measuring it. Here's the 0, all the way to 90 is 90. I just teach geometry at school. So the length is going to be different than the degrees. Do we understand each other? Degrees measures like the inner piece, like how wide it is. The length measures the linear in inches, feet, meters, whatever. So things to remember, arc length is always in inches, meters, centimeters, miles, whatever. The measure of the arc is going to be the same as the measure of its central angle. You just took a test on this. So if the central angle was 90, that means the arc is also 90. Okay? We're going to do some problems. First thing I ask you to do is write down the formula.
Oh. Just like it was written.
I write it like this. Arc length over circumference equals the arc measure over 360. This is like the shorthand version. You might want to make sure you give yourself some room because some people write way too big. Like you probably are not going to have room. Justin will have room. You probably won't have room. She'll have room. All right. Arc length. Well, what are we finding in number A? In the first one. What is it asking us to find?
Arc length.
Arc length of PQ. So arc length. So do we know the arc length?
No.
No, because it says
We have the degree.
find the arc length, and length is not in degrees. So we don't know it. We're going to put X. You can put A, you can put L. It doesn't really matter. Just by looking at this, do we know the circumference?
No.
No, but could we find the circumference? Yes. Which circumference formula would we use in this problem? Pi times D. Because what's the diameter here?
It's
9. So pi times 9. So we're doing this so we can put the circumference in the very bottom. So what are we going to type into our calculator?
3.14 times 9.
3.14 times 9. I think it's 20.
28.26.
Yeah. 28.26. That goes in the very bottom. So will X be larger or smaller than 28.26?
X will be smaller.
Smaller. Because arc length is only a piece of the circumference.
Of course.
So it can't be bigger than circumference. Because the circumference is all around the circle. All right, and then it equals the arc out of 360 degrees. 360 will never change. The arc will, depending on how many degrees it is. How many degrees is our arc? 75 degrees. So we plug in 75. All right, so we're going to do cross multiplication. What is x times 360?
368.
360x. Cross multiply the other way. What is 28.26 times 75? It will be a large number.
2,119.5.
Good. All right, then how do we finish solving for x?
Divide 360.
Divide by 360. Divide by 360. So x equals, should be a 5 something. 5.89. Sorry. Yards. Yeah, but we have 2 other problems to do. Could we do the next problem, then you can go? Then come back quickly. Actually, no. You sat in here during the break. You can wait till after my class. You'll be fine. You feel sick? All right, so the second one, write the equation first, or the formula.
How'd you do that?
It's called copy and paste.
You wrote it that fast?
Copy and paste. What is the... Oh, wait a second. So we got arc length over circumference equals the measure of the arc over 360. All right, so what is the arc length of this circle? Because we're looking for the circumference. You can only have one thing missing, and we're going to have the circumference missing. So what length did they give us in this circle?
270.
That's not a length.
Oh, 61.20.
61.26 is a length. So that is the measure of that arc. Wrong word. 61.26. Over, we don't know. I'm going to put C for circumference. Just because we normally put C for circumference. All right, and then how many degrees out of 360? 270. All right, so we cross multiply again. C times 270 is 270C. And it equals 61.26 times 360. You're getting there? Or is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. 22,053.6.
You're gonna want to divide that.
We will want to divide it. All we did was 61.26 times 360. You looked confused.
Me?
No. Divide by 270. And we get
81.60.
81.68. It's fine. We're rounding to the hundredths. And then meters. Go ahead and write the the formula one last time. Arc length over circumference equals the measure of the arc out of 360. What are we trying to find in this one? The radius. Is the radius in this formula right now? No. But what part of the formula deals with the radius? The what? The circumference, right? So if we find the circumference, we could then find the radius. Okay? So we don't have any information regarding the circumference. So we're going to be finding the circumference again. We don't have a radius, we don't have the diameter, so there is no way to find the circumference. It didn't say the circumference equals. Are you okay with that? You furrowed your eyebrows. Nothing. You're probably thinking about something else. What is the arc length in this picture? 10.5, yeah. Out of the entire circumference, which we don't know, I'm going to again call it C. And it equals 150 out of 360 degrees. Did you already do math? Sorry, I'll get there. C times 150 is 150
Oh, wait, no.
C.
Maybe 3,060.
No.
3,600?
No, it does come out to a whole number. 3,700? 3,780. All right, divide by 150. So what does the circumference equal? Round it to the nearest hundredth. 25.2. Do I circle this answer? No. I need to find the radius. Which circumference formula deals with the radius? 2 pi r. It's okay. All is good. So 2 pi r. So circumference equals 2 pi r. So where am I going to plug in 25.2? For the circumference. 25.2 equals 2 pi r. Alright, so I need to get r by itself. It's being multiplied by 2 pi, so I'm going to divide by 2 pi. What do we actually type into our calculator? 6.28. So 25.2 divided by 6.28. Round to the nearest hundredth. I believe you get 4.01, and this is in feet. So 4.01 feet. All right, go ahead and flip. We do one more thing together. So if you remember in your scientific calculator, your calculator had to be in degree mode. So if you were getting crazy answers and it was in the wrong mode, there are 3 types of modes technically. 2 of them we're going to talk about. You're going to see degrees and radians at the top. You need to write this down. They are both ways to measure an angle. These are both ways to measure an angle. You can measure them in degrees, you can measure them in radians. So these are both ways to measure an angle. The boxes are for how to go back and forth from one to the other. So in Algebra 2, you're going to eventually learn what we call about the unit circle. All right, and the unit circle has degrees and it has radians. You use radians in trigonometry, and I'm not talking the basic trigonometry we did in class, like actual trigonometry. You would use radians, which have pi, okay, which are in terms of pi. So in this box where it says degree to radians, you need to write down you multiply. So it goes in this box. That you're going to multiply by pi over 180. So in the first box, to go from degrees to radians, you're going to multiply by pi over 180. Because in radians, you'll have pi in your answer. Every single time. To go from radians to degrees, have you ever seen us say this is 5 pi degrees? Probably not. No. So you're going to end up having just a number answer. In order to do that, you multiply again, but by 180 over pi. You multiply by 180 over pi. So reason being, 180 and pi are actually equivalent to each other. So you're really multiplying by the number 1. You're just making it look different. So to go from 15 degrees to radians, do we want pi in the answer? Yes, we do, because we want to go to radians, and radians, you'll have pi. So that means you're going to multiply with pi in the top. So you're going to multiply 15 times pi over 180. You will not use your calculator, really, unless you don't know how to divide. When you multiply a whole number by a fraction, what do you have to do? Put it over 1. Multiply straight across. What's 15 times pi? 15 pi. We're leaving in terms of pi. And then 1 times 180. 180. You still can't plug this into your calculator. You will have to reduce. You're going to have to reduce 14 over 180. Okay, what number, 15. What number are 15 and 180 both divisible by? 5. We can divide by 5. How many times does 5 go into 15? 3. How many times does 5 go into 180? 36 times. 60 times 5 is 300.
Oh, I was thinking 3.
It's okay. So this is, right now, 3 pi over 36. Did we reduce it completely? No. What are both 3 and 36 divisible by? 3. How many times does 3 go into 3? Once. How many times does 3 go into 36? 12 times. Think of pi like you would write an x. Do we write 1x? No. We would just write x. So here we're just going to write pi over 12. That is the final answer. So pi over 12 is equivalent to 15 degrees. Right? In the second, we're going to take 4 pi over 3 and convert it into degrees. Do we want pi in the answer? No. So where would pi have to be in my second fraction to cancel out the pi's? In the bottom. Because you can do this thing called cross-canceling. The pi's will cancel out. Is there anything else we can cross-cancel? 3 and 180. What are they both divisible by? 3. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 180 60 times. And 4 times 60 is? What's 4 times 6? I said, what's 4 times 60? And then we couldn't do that, so I said 4 times 6. And then you just add a 0. That's all. All right. So we're going to pause.